Hey, this is Chuck with BMWBLOG, and join us while we're reviewing the 2021 BMW 430 xDrive Coupe. We're going to take you on a thorough test drive. We're going to put it up on our lift and look at all the details of the mechanics underneath. And at the end of the video, we're going to go through a thorough review of the design of the car, both inside and out. This is BMW's Coupe based off the 3 Series. Very successful car. The most obvious thing about the car is the front end, and specifically the kidney grills and how much they dominate the design. So let's talk about how this thing is to drive. I think the first thing I expected with this car was that it would be an extremely sporty car, and I think I had to reset my expectations with it, because when you just get in it and drive it, it automatically defaults to comfort in terms of how it shifts, how it responds to the throttle, how it turns. And after driving this thing for going on maybe 10 days and about 250 miles, I realized how I like to drive it, and that is every time I get in the thing, take my finger and push the sport button. And the sport button changes the way the steering responds to your inputs. It changes the response of the gas pedal, and most importantly, it keeps it in a reasonable gear. Sorry, we just passed a police car, and I'm trying to make sure he doesn't follow us or our chase car right over there, and it does not appear that he is. So I think we're good. Car also has an auto start stop, which you're going to find on any gasoline motor now, and that, you know, when you're at a stoplight, helps with gas consumption, and I think it's just something you have to get used to. And again, if you push a sport button, it goes away. The other thing I noticed the sport button does on this car is that it changes the dash. It changes the dash and gives you RPM. Like if you were to go into comfort mode, it actually turns the dash a different shade of orange. And then if you go to Eco Pro, it actually turns it blue, very much like the plug-in hybrid X3. It really attenuates the response when you add throttle to it, and I think again it's just trying to maximize fuel economy. Powering the 430 is BMW's B46 4-cylinder. It cranks out 255 horsepower and is good for 294 foot-pounds of torque. 0 to 60 comes in 5.3 seconds, is mated through an 8-speed automatic, and achieves a top speed of 130 miles an hour, unless you get the M Sport package, in which case you can reach 155 miles per hour. The 4 Series does handle much better, I think, than a 3 Series, and part of how it does that is it has a wider track and it has a wider rear end, and so it helps you really put the power down. The one main criticism I have about this car is that the front end seems to have a lot of softness to it. It really likes to bounce, especially on hard cornering. But one of the things that I really like about this car is because it's all-wheel drive, and it is supremely good at putting the power down, in addition to being fantastic in all kinds of bad weather. And again, when you put it in sport, I think it finally gives you the feedback from the steering wheel that you expect, that I expect from a BMW. Start-stop engine is on the center console. A lot of the other BMWs, it's on the dash to the right of the speedometer. Put it in drive. Again, every time I start it, I put it in sport, because otherwise I really don't enjoy the way it responds to my inputs. All right, and so let's see what a 0 to 60 is. Get out here and we will punch it. Wow, this thing gets up and goes, and you can definitely feel the grip in the front. In fact, the interesting thing is that the 0 to 60 time for the 430 all-wheel drive car is actually faster than the rear-wheel drive, and the reason is because there's so much grip in the front when you start off, especially like that, and conditions like today where there's a little bit of moisture on the ground and traction is not ideal. And let me show you about the dash. If you go to Eco Pro, here's the part where it all turns blue. Comfort kind of turns a strange orange color, reminiscent of what BMWs were back in the 80s. On up, hit sport, and there's still some orange to it, but it's more reddish orange. On the left, you have the speedometer kind of in the new look with a bar that goes up, but it does conveniently read out the speed that you're going. In the center here, you have your navigation. It is configurable. You can put other things on it. On the right is the RPM. In Sport, if you go to Eco Pro, it gives you a percentage and also your miles per gallon. I'm going to go back to Sport now because my favorite on and off ramp is coming up. I end up searching for fun on and off ramps like this. This is really nice. Has a little decreasing radius aspect, and I'm throttle steering this portion, and I'm happy to report that you can actually still throttle steer these. Now let's see what these brakes do, and I'll show you what the nosedive is on this car. Got way into the ABS there. One thing you can always count about BMW is that they're always going to give you good brakes with good acceleration. Now these don't have floating rotors. You know, they're not M car brakes, but they will stop this car. BMW kind of balances the brake with the horsepower. So the more horsepower car you get, like the new 500 horsepower M3 and M4, you're going to get a massive braking system there. Here in a 430 with a 4-cylinder turbocharged 255 horsepower, you get good brakes, but you don't get the brakes that you get in an M car. I love this on-ramp. So pretty good pull on the highway. Reasonable engine noise. It's surprisingly good for a 4-cylinder motor in terms of how much, how good it sounds. So it's really cool. All right, I'm going to move the camera and we're going to go run that again. Thought I'd give you a view of the underside of the 4 Series all-wheel drive. Since this is an all-wheel drive one, I thought I'd show you what I can show you of the underside. So looks like a single exhaust coming back to a larger muffler with tailpipes on both sides that obviously are functional, which is nice to see that they don't have non-functional pieces. It actually is all utilized. Now going forward, here's your differential. Looks, having seen many differentials on my lift, this one seems pretty small. Gives you an idea of how aerodynamic the underside is. You can see how absolutely smooth this is as we follow the exhaust pipe up. And as we get about the middle of the car, you can start to see more mechanical components. This looks like a front, must be right where the transmission sits, right up under there. So that's the transmission mount. As we go forward, you can see the front drive shafts, telling you that it is indeed an all-wheel drive car. Rather complicated mechanics. Way up under there is your shock and your front strut and your spring. Here's the passenger side of the same thing. There. Front drive shaft, your springs, and your front strut. Springs don't look like they're very, very strong. They're pretty small and fairly spread out. And there's another view of the spring that I was talking about. So obviously not a very, very strong spring, because there's your strut hat is right there. So how many is that one? Is that only 2 coils? That can't be. I don't know that I've ever seen a smaller, weaker looking spring in the front. And this car does have optional wheels on it, and these are looks like 2 25/40 19s, which they're the front, same size front and back. Something really unique. It says BMW individual, which generally you don't. See if I can pull that around. It says BMW individual. I don't know that I've ever seen that on a 3 Series in the United States anyway. Fairly cool. Again, very cool to see that this air breather right here, this air curtain, is actually functional, and it helps push air and make it flow better around the edge of the car. And now that it's up on the lift, I've noticed this other crease on the bottom that kind of trails up a little bit. It's really very nice surfaces on the car for sure. Another cool thing I noticed when I put it up on the lift is where the light comes from. It's in this little housing right here at the very base of the front wheel, and it throws some pretty impressive light. Now you can see it now that it's off. It really throws quite an impressive amount of light for such a small thing, but that's the cool thing about LEDs anymore is how much light you can get from such a little object. And back up near the front right here is where the oil is. It says open this way and then close this way. I've tried yanking on it a little bit and I cannot get it very easily, and I don't really want to break anything, but there's the oil drain plug is right there. So it still should be easy to change the oil on your own. And then the front control arm right there, and the front control arm bushing is a pretty good size. Again, I'm just kind of surprised at how small that spring is for the front strut. I'm going to do this next a little bit here in my garage because it is so freaking windy outside. You can't really hear well, even with a dead cat on my microphone. So let's talk about the design of this BMW 4 Series, because I think that's the most remarkable part about the entire car. So I've been driving this car for a week, and at my work I've had 10 unsolicited comments, and you can guess what they all have been about. And they're about this prominent design feature right here, the front twin kidney grills. They're unlike any other kidney grill. These are just massive now, and they, instead of just being above the front structure, they run from the top of the grill all the way down literally to the bottom of the bumper. And you can see, you know, some parts are functional and some parts are not. That area down on the bottom is open. This portion on the side right here in the middle, you can see right in through here, this is all solid plastic, so clearly it's not a vent. And right underneath here is the front crash member when you get in a wreck. Then above here it becomes functional again, and currently these are closed. They're closed to help with airflow over the front of the car when the car doesn't need the extra cooling, but these then can open when the car needs extra cooling. One of my pet peeves that I don't like on this is that you have this body line right down the middle of the hood. They didn't used to always do that on the 3 and 4 Series Coupes, and they still don't do that on all their cars, but it's something that I really liked it when the front hood came all the way down here. They didn't make that crease on the 3 Series, so I don't really get why they did it on the 4 Series. Moving on from the grille, I really like the new design language they have now with the daylight running lights. They're super cool. And the orange amber light up in the corners shows that it's BMW LED. Another part that I really like is you can see that this is actually functional right here. There's a little pass-through for air to get through to make an air curtain on the edge of the front wheel so that the airflow along the side of the car is better and helps improve fuel economy and decrease drag on the car. Once you move beyond getting over the grille, I actually really like the surfaces that BMW has done. I really like how you can see from the grille that flow from the edge of the car. Moving along from the A-pillar, the B-pillar is really pretty hidden. If you move to the C-pillar, you can see that the Hofmeister kink is still sort of there. There's still some forward sloping part, but it's really changed. And that's like kind of evolutionary change. It's not totally gone because there is some forward tilt to this. again, and then here's the airflow right along the front, along the edge. BMW used to go crazy with this stuff and they called it flame surfacing, but this looks like it's more aerodynamic really than I would call it flame surfacing like they did on the original Z4. Moving back to the rear headlights, I really like this swooping design here that they have along the edge. It has a really nice flow to it. Do want to really point out something that's kind of interesting from the back of the car, and that is that the back of the car really tapers off. BMW used to kind of carry this roof line out farther and it would give you a little bit more headroom, and then they would drop it down at a more steep angle. But this actually is just a lot smoother. Consequently, there's a little less headroom in the back, but it is definitely a much different look in the back. For a comparison, you can see how BMW used to carry the roof a lot farther along here and then taper it down, and then there was a more pronounced Hofmeister kink here. All right, now let's take a look inside the car. Your typical BMW layout, beautiful as always. Well bolstered seats here that are very good at holding you in place. Well sculpted out to hold your body in position. Nice little adjustable spot for your thigh, so for really tall people can stretch that out. We'll sit in this here, take a look at the dash. Obviously you got your RPM over here, you got your speed over here. There it is in sport. It's kind of an orangey red color. Comfort is more orange, and then eco, and turn everything to blue. So on the center console here you have your start and stop button. You have the little button to turn off the auto start stop, meaning when you come to a stoplight, the engine will go off to save gas. You can disable that feature here. You can turn your traction control feature off here. You have your sport, comfort, and Eco Pro driving modes. Comfort really is its default. Every time you start the car, it's going to start on comfort. To put the transmission into sport, you have to put it in drive, move it over to the left here. Also allows you to use this lever as the shifter should you so choose. Over here is a touchpad. Would like to point out in the pedal box that BMW still provides a dead pedal for your left foot so you can brace yourself when you're driving hard. This 430 Coupe comes with the iDrive 7.0. This is an 8.8-inch touchscreen, and it does come standard with Apple CarPlay, Android Auto. These do come with Sirius satellite radio with a 1-year subscription. This does not have the optional tech package or parking package, so you will get some guides when you back up. Obviously, I'm not going to run into my neighbor's tree. So there are ultrasonic sensors that's shown over here, and then this is kind of a small parking screen compared to one that had cameras all around it. Now this just has the backup camera only. There's no camera on the front. There's no camera by the mirrors to give you a surround view. Totally functional, but this is kind of what their base is. And then if you go to their main menu, you have communication. You tap up here, you get Apple CarPlay. It's pretty nice display. You can scroll with your fingers if you want. Choose Waze, WhatsApp. I've obviously not tried Zoom while I'm driving. I think that would be kind of crazy. But moving on down here, you have all your HVAC things, which are self-explanatory. And then this is pretty cool. A fairly large area with cup holders, and then this space back here for your phone. I've been throwing my phone back here and throwing Apple CarPlay. I wish the car charging was standard on these, but it is an option which you can, I'll put the price. Door also comes with an excellent water bottle holder, and then trunk release. All your light switches for your headlights are right here. Every time you start it, it will default to auto. So if you want your headlights on for taking photos and stuff, you have to come back and turn this stuff on. And then a dial for how much ambient background light you want. Even though this doesn't have the sports steering wheel, it is really, it's well designed. It has got almost everything you need here to control the car without taking your hands off. You have your cruise control limits here. You can change your radios. You can ask it to take you somewhere. You can make a phone call. You can look at lists. You can change your songs, turn your volume up and down. You can turn the heater on the steering wheel, and you can of course shift. This is a down. Your turn signal stock here with access to your trip computer here and automatic high beams. Essentially a cockpit made for a driver. Everything is really situated around you, and you feel really enveloped by the driving experience, and everything you need to access to control the car is literally at your fingertips. Allows you to focus on the driving. And ultimately the 4 Series Coupe is more aimed at a luxury buyer than it is a hardcore sports car enthusiast. Those I think are probably going to gravitate towards the M440i or even the M4. Anyway, we hope you enjoyed our review of the 2021 BMW 430 xDrive. And as always, please don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Cheers.